Hello guys, I'm Sergeant Deriff. I've been at CSTARS Baltimore for a little over 4 years now. I have orders to go to Andrews. Thank you to Sergeant Nahar for the help with that. And I'll turn it over to Joe.
I'm Tech Sergeant Coventry. I've been stationed here for about 3 years now, coming up on my 3-year mark. Been in the military for about 7 years. I was previously stationed at Nellis before this. And we're in Baltimore, so yeah. That's good information. First, we're going to start off with talking about CSTARS. So CSTARS is the Center for Sustainment of Trauma and Readiness Skills. This course is a CMRP course. Our main focus is to get 96 clinical hours of experience for students. This includes both the OR and the sim lab. In the OR, it entails scrubbing and circulating, but we're also here to get that trauma experience. So if we have time during the course, we may be able to go over to our TRU, the trauma unit, and kind of observe and see what's going on. Unfortunately, as surgical techs, we don't have the credentialing that the 4Os might have to be able to work in the TRU, but we can sit there and observe and kind of see the entire process, which that is important. A lot of people don't really know. I know that they covered it in the GST deployment town hall about how, you know, even though you're a 4-in-1, you're not necessarily acting as a 4-in-1 the entire time. You have to know all those different skills there. But our main focus here for CMRP is the OR. And in our ORs, we see all different kinds of traumas that come in through the TRU, MVCs, gunshot wounds, stabbings, falls, all kinds of stuff like that. We currently do not see burn or pediatric cases. We used to go to the burn center over at Johns Hopkins University, but since COVID kind of flared up, we have kind of put that on hold, and we're not able to go over there because Johns Hopkins doesn't want any of our students there at the moment. But we also, in the STEM lab, will cover burn and pediatric cases. In addition to our initial traumas that come into our trauma OR, which has 11 operating rooms, we also assist with follow-up care of patients. So just because you're here to see trauma, it's not necessarily that you're going to see trauma all the time. You know, trauma isn't scheduled. It just depends on the day. So some days our OR has nothing but INDs or, you know, just small cases like that. So we're here to assist with those cases as well and provide that follow-up care to the trauma patients. Our job here as a surgical tech, also we can build into other areas of the CSTARS program. I know Sergeant Alley covered that as well with his program, which is very similar, as SMART and CSTARS both fall under the same umbrella of USAFSTAM, the School of Aerospace Medicine. We also assist with different areas of the program here, like simulation. That's actually one big thing that we cover right now, as our sim lab is actually short manned by, what is it now? I think we're missing 2 out of 3 people right now. So we're assisting in that as well. So we operate high fidelity simulators that can talk, they can bleed, they have heartbeats, respirations, all that stuff. And then in addition to actually providing that simulation and, you know, the cleanup, the setup, all that stuff, we also provide feedback to our students for simulations in our course. And we see approximately 18 classes a year with 2 OR tech slots in each class. So that just gives a kind of overlook there of how many classes we see. For the workload during course, we're scheduled for 12-hour days. That includes, like I said before, the OR and simulation, or any kind of classwork that we might have the first couple of days. We go through a bunch of briefings and we talk about, you know, the area of Baltimore, different things that you might see in the OR. We cover how STEM is going to work. And in addition to that, in our course, we go over to the cadaver lab for 1 day, where we actually get hands-on with cadavers and get to see what it's like to do these interventions that we might not necessarily get to do in our regular day-to-day job. We can still practice and go through those motions, such as needle decompressions and chest tubes, intubating, different skills like that. So our duty hours are 12-hour days clinically, which includes Monday through Friday, and as well as one Saturday during the course. The majority of our workload is clinical. It's currently, we are also assisting, like I said, with stimulation due to the manning shortage. So we're moving all around. So we might have to, one day, one of us is covering stim and the other one's covering the OR. We might have to run up and down from our stim lab all the way in the basement up to the second floor where the OR is. It really just depends on the job and, you know, what students we have here and who can cover what that day. We also have, during our off days, like a better term, the days that we don't have course, we're out of course. We also are still expected to come in, whether it be to provide assistance to the OR up here and work clinically, or if we have any kind of admin duties that we need to take care of or any extra duties. A lot of time we have to run down to Fort Meade, which is close by, and we have to handle vehicles that we have that are loaned out to us from Fort Meade. I'm currently the equipment custodian. I have to run down to Andrews a lot, Andrews Air Force Base, which is about 45 minutes away, in order to drop that off to BMETs so they can service our equipment and coordinate with them. Just different tasks like that, scheduling the courses and students. There's a lot of different options to get involved with. What else do we got? For the requirements for the job, it's E5 or above. There's no mandatory classes that you have to attend. The deployment experience is preferred. It's not absolutely necessary. Basically, what I would say is if anybody's interested in applying for a job when it comes open, just go ahead and apply and we can figure it out from there. You can contact whoever the POC is on the job ad and we'll be able to point you in the right direction. And then after you arrive, you'll actually get to go to our BIP course at USAFSAM, the basic instructor course, where you get to learn a little bit more about what it's like to be an instructor and what it entails. Next question that we had here on our list here was what made me want to do this job. I was previously stationed at Nellis, like I said before, and I wanted to branch out from that MTF environment. I wanted to work a little bit more on my own and get that, that feel for what it's like to work in the trauma. I was deployed when the job ad came up for me to apply. So I got that experience being deployed, and I never had the chance to come to CSTARS before that. So I really wanted to see what it was all about. I went to SMART and I thought that was a really great program, and I just wanted to see what the difference was with CSTARS. But it gives you a lot of independence. You get to work, you're working for the unit, but you get to work for yourself essentially. You have to really have that motivation and drive to, stay up on everything. And just from previous experiences before the military, I just love to teach and I love to really engage with students. So that was a big reason why I wanted to join.
Just to piggyback off that, if you're one of the older techs like myself, and you went to CSTARS prior, it changed a lot in the last couple of years. We did a big change in I believe it was 2017, where we took the course down to 2 weeks to mirror that of St. Louis and our other offsites. So the course moved from 3 weeks to 2 weeks. So we still had to maintain our 96-hour clinical times in the OR. So that made us lose our burn rotation that we did. We no longer do the TCCC course or the ATOM lab where we operate on live patient models. So of course, it looks a lot different if you're older like me and went through years ago. So just keep that in mind.
So another thing about that too is, it's kind of come up with our leadership. Actually, we were talking yesterday with General Ryder, our new general there up at Wright Pat, and it was brought up by our commander, Colonel DeBose, that he noticed in the past, in his previous tour here, that it seems a lot of times the instructors that come here are kind of coming here to ride out the end of their enlistment and retire or get out of the military. But he's noticed the change more recently where it's, we're getting more people that are young and hungry and have that desire to, branch out and do more and advance their careers through this instructing program. So it's actually really turned around where it's able, it really helps you push through, and it makes you a better airman all around, I would say, which it gives you that flexibility and, like I said, that personal ownership in this job, and you really focus on yourself, which leads into what I would like about this job. It allows you to not only, have that ownership, but you can also, you instruct on some days. We teach a couple lectures here ourselves as surgical techs, in addition to, doing those simulations and that class setting. We get the OR setting as well. And you get to see a lot more with that trauma OR than you normally would at an MTF, which I think is just an awesome experience to have. And then during that down week, you have that time for yourself where, we're not in class, so you can go and take care of any appointments. You can spend time with your family. You can take leave. I know Allie touched on it. We have the same leadership as Sergeant Allie at SMART, and it's very encouraged to take leave during your off weeks and to take care of yourself and get that professional development and any, responsibilities in addition to being a surgical tech.
So one of the dislikes, or not dislikes, but negativities about the course is the fact that we're geographically separated from the mothership at USAF SAM. They're at Wright Pat. So if we have any issues as far as like IT or just anything like that, we pretty much have to mail our computers or laptops back to Wright Pat to have them fixed there. So that's not optimal, but other than that, it's a great position to have. Really great time. You get to see new students, every month. It's great for networking. It's just a really good time.
In addition to talking about that geographically separated unit that we are at, we're stationed, as you know, in Baltimore. We have a servicing MPF where we have to take care of all kind of, the military stuff. We have to take care of that through the MPF at Andrews Air Force Base. And then, as Sergeant Durf said, our leadership is at Wright Pat Air Force Base. So you kind of have to know the different ins and outs. I know that we've struggled with that in the past, trying to figure out, who needs to handle this, or who needs to, do we need to go to Andrews? Do we need to go to Wright Pat? So that is definitely a difficult situation, especially since, Wright Pat is an 8-hour drive from us, and Andrews is about 45 minutes to an hour drive. But in addition to that, we just, you take care of your stuff, and you always have that help from the leadership here. I wanted to talk more. I didn't really touch on it when we were glossing over, the job itself. We get to work with a lot of different cadre here. We have all kinds of different jobs that we get to interact with and branch out and learn what they do. So we get to work with anesthesia providers, nurses, other foreign O's. Who else do we even have here? There's so many. We have 23 cadre, RTs, all different kinds of experience and different backgrounds that you can lean on and build off of yourself. So it's a really good place to really learn a lot as you're instructing and growing in your career. So after the military, you can take this experience. It'll really help with the transition to a civilian world. As a surgical tech, you gain a ton of experience here. And having shock trauma, University of Maryland shock trauma, looks really good on your resume. For those that haven't been through the course, they do things a lot differently here. There's no pull sheets, there's no case carts. They see what case they're getting, and they go and they pull all of the supplies and equipment that they need by memory. And it's just right then and there. They take their back table into the supply room, and they pull everything off the shelves, and that is how they get their supplies. It's not set out for you the night before. So it's a very tough and challenging environment here. And if you plan to stay in the area, it's a very easy transition to work in the hospital here or in the University of Maryland network. I've seen many former cadre that are now out have transitioned into working full-time at the hospital. You have anything to add on that? Other than that, StimLab, like I said, we've been working with StimLab a lot, so we get that experience that the sim operator in the civilian side would be able to, we'd be able to transfer into that civilian role as a sim operator, and having this experience would really help out with that. And to apply, we talked about it a little bit earlier, so you have to be E5 or above. Again, airmen must volunteer through Equal Plus, which Sergeant Alley talked on with his briefing. Same thing. You have to complete the generic special duty assignment template. You need last 3 copies of your EPRs, a records review listing, your AMS and CERF, a copy of your 422 Alpha with a current pool statement. And if you don't meet a requirement, a minimum profile requirement, it can just be reviewed by your servicing medical authority, and they can determine if it's waiverable or not. And so all that gets sent to the POC, and then they would look over all the applications and make that recommendation to AFPC, who would then pick who is actually going to PCS. So now at this point, that kind of covers CMRP as a whole, CSTARS Baltimore as a whole. We also wanted to talk about GST as well. GST actually started here in Baltimore with Sergeant DeRiff, and then over the course of 3 years it was here, and it got built up to be so big that we found that running it out of a penthouse of the Holiday Inn in Inner Harbor, Baltimore, wasn't exactly austere enough. So our leadership decided to move it out to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, which at that point we assisted with that for just about over a year. We started in January of 2019, going out to Wright-Patterson for every course to help out until we got to have new permanent cadre stationed there. Right now, Tech Sergeant Jonah Morales and Staff Sergeant Derek Harper are the new permanent cadre for GST, but we are just going to speak on that as we've been with this course since its inception.
Yeah, we were very happy to finally get Harper and Morales in there. We going TDY there was getting a little bit old, but the GST team, specifically Phase 1, we do about 20 courses a year. Whether we can get them in for COVID or not. You teach the surgical tech portion of the course, including the austere infection control, and maintain daily operations for the course, including the maintenance of supply equipment, the cadaver lab, and simulation. Staff Sergeant Frost and Sergeant Long already explained what the GST is, so I'm not going to focus too much on that per se. We'll just focus on Phase 1. The primary focus of Phase 1 is to familiarize yourself with the allowance standard, which is all the bags and supplies equipment that you get, and then team dynamics, team building, and communication. The team dynamics is extra important for the foreign ones, specifically because of the team makeup. The teams are very officer heavy. A young airman might feel a little bit uncomfortable stating his opinion. So the makeup of the cadre is also very heavy. So if you get slotted to go down there for an instructor, you're going to need to be a little bit more comfortable with talking to officers. But don't let it scare you. They have a great team down there. It's a total fun time to work with them. With the allowance standard, you'll be expected to know and teach what's in each bag and its importance, and you will need to reiterate that the supplies allotted for the team is very slim, but adequate, and your conservation of your supplies is key. There's actually a YouTube video that they filmed when we were there. Once we're done with this, I'll post it in the comments so everybody can go and take a look at it. So for the workload and hours, GST is 8-hour days, 5 days a week. Most of the responsibilities are course prep for the surgical techs, inventories, equipment maintenance, and admin duties. Also, since the new permanent cadre have arrived, they have started working clinically at the, I think I'm saying this correctly, Soin Medical Center in Fairborn, Ohio, to keep up their scrub hours and skills. What made me want to do the job? Well, this is for GST and CSTARS. GST wasn't around when I got the job, but I saw the ad come on AMS. I really wanted to volunteer, but not enough to uproot my family, my wife away from where we were in Eglin, even though we were there for 10 years. As luck would have it, I got the job and really love it. All right, what do I like about the GST team specifically? I really love the team they have over there. Their camaraderie there is off the charts. I also really like the mission and the material we instruct. Dislikes, Sergeant Coventry already talked about that. When we did it, we were originally doing it in the penthouse of a Holiday Inn, not the most austere of environments. When they moved the course to Ohio, they didn't have enough have the cadre there in place to actually teach the course. So Sergeant Coventry and I were going back and forth, as well as the other AFSC cadres. But we were going back and forth every month to teach the 2-week course. But that was the only bad thing about it. I really, really love being an instructor there. How you can use the experience for GST, I mean, obviously it's in an austere environment, depending on where you go in the States these days. But mostly what you can use from the training is the experience you gain from a GST, basically your team building skills. You can use those anywhere in any job you go to. And the selection process to GST is going to be the same thing that Tech Sergeant Coventry had just covered for CSTARS. So at this point, if anybody has any questions for myself or Sergeant Coventry, we'll open it up to you guys now.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
All right, so this is Sergeant Nahar. Just had a few things that I wanted to touch. I know Sergeant Alley mentioned some of these things, so might be repetitive. I'm sure you guys will have those answers. One of the things that I wanted to kind of identify is, as instructors for USAF-SAM, what are perks? I know it's different than AETC. Usually for AETC instructors, they get different things that they qualify for. Are there anything like that you guys get as being USAF-SAM instructors?
We do go through a bit course. It's an accelerated course that USAF-SAM offers. I don't believe you get to claim it or wear the cookie you get with that, but you do gain some public speaking skills. I don't know if any other perks per se as far as what we do. Do you have anything, Joe?
No, that was what I was going to touch on. Was the big course.
Okay. All right. Next question is regarding how do you guys stay engaged? I know that you're attached to Wright-Patterson under USAF-SAM. You have a few bases that are near you there in the surrounding area. How do you stay engaged, whether it's private organizations, volunteer opportunities? Because I'm not sure, Sergeant Coventry and Sergeant Riff, if you guys directly supervise anybody there at the program. But what are you guys do to kind of fill that void?
So this was kind of brought up in a meeting also. That's one of the negative things about being away from your from where you work. It's difficult to get involved, find volunteer opportunities. You see a lot of stuff on the emails, and those are Wright-Pat generated. So all the stuff that you see on there are going to be from Wright-Pat. We have good leadership at USAF-SAM that will call and send us emails specifically of stuff we can do. With COVID going on now, before COVID started, it was hard to go to some of the 5-6 meetings or anything like that if we want to be involved with that. Now, much like us doing this virtually now, a lot of those meetings are done virtually, so that gives us an opportunity to get in there also. Do you have anything?
No, I was just going to touch on personally with GST being a Wright-Pat, when we were going back and forth, pretty much every other month we were switching out. So there wasn't a lot of time to even jump into things like that. But now that we've kind of slowed down with that, or we stopped with that completely, and COVID's kind of slowed down, as Sergeant DeRiff said. They're reaching out and doing virtual things such as that, as the 5-6 or the enlisted council. But in addition, we have more time now that we could go down to Andrews Air Force Base. I know we talked a little bit earlier before the recording started. We know some people down there. Sergeant DeRiff is PCSing there. I know Master Sergeant Gillespie is down there right now, so can reach out and get with her and figure out a few things that we can get involved in.
Next question I have is regarding, I know y'all mentioned that CMRP. You guys stay up to date with the CMRP requirements?
Yes. So actually recently, our leadership who tracks all of our CMRPs, they actually wanted a brand new copy of all of our checklists for all the cadre, all the way from, you know, Colonel DeBose all the way down. So we actually just made sure that, what was that? That was about a month or two ago. We made sure that everything was current on that.
How do you guys ever experience issues with students, whether being difficult or challenging? How do you guys normally deal with those situations?
I would say every situation is different. Listening to Sergeant Alley as well in his briefing, you know, you get the hard charger airmen or NCOs that really want to do a good job, and that's awesome. What I would recommend or what I try to do with students like that is to just, you know, keep in mind, you know, we're at the civilian hospital, we're at their facility. Let these preceptors that we have, civilian preceptors that we have, take ownership, make sure that you're staying on task and doing what they want you to do. We've dealt with some difficult students as well that didn't want, you know, to do the job, or one student in particular didn't want to scrub. Actually, he wanted to sit in the trauma resuscitation unit and get to experience that, not only observe, but he wanted to get into the trauma unit, which is great, but our TAA doesn't allow for us to do that as surgical techs, and it can cause a lot of, you know, legal issues. So it took a lot of conversation with that one specific student, to the point where we even pulled them out of the OR, and for the last few days said, hey, just essentially like take the day off, because we didn't want to make the relationship even more strenuous than it already was. And we actually, over a long period of time, had to rebuild our relationship with the civilian scrub techs and nurses that we have upstairs.
Yeah, that's something that students need to know before they come here as a student, not just cadre. But we do spend a lot of time building a relationship with shock trauma and their scrubs. We rely on them heavily when we have, you know, more than one student to help us precept in the room. And your actions when you come here affect the course for a long time. Like Coventry said, it took a while for us to, like, you know, for certain preceptors to let students come in the room after some of the shenanigans that have been pulled by some students. But I mean, right now the relationship's great. Pretty much all of them like to have students in their room. They all love to teach. Sergeant Coventry and I also love to teach. But just make sure when you come here as a student, you come ready to learn and ready to do the work, and you know, no complaints. They are long duty hours. They're strenuous cases. So just come with the right attitude, and you know, leave the course better than when you got here.
All right. Question might be my last one. We'll see. If you had the ability to change something with CSTARS, the program, as a 4-in-1, what would you change? Or what have you thought about something that you could propose to the career field manager to make the course better for 4-in-1s?
Being here as a student when the course was 3 weeks, and being here as an instructor when the course was 3 weeks, I liked it better as a student and as a cadre for the course to be 3 weeks. I think they have a lot more time to get in their 96 hours of scrub time. And I mean, we don't deal much with burn, but it is very beneficial for us to go over to the burn center and see what's going on over there. They had since took that away from us. We can no longer go over there because it takes away a whole day of clinic time. The TCCC exercise, it was a great outsource for you to get TCCC certified. That's no longer there, an option. A lot of people are upset about that. We're trying to figure out a way to work it back in. Maybe after I leave, Sergeant Coventry can figure something out. But that is something that I know a lot of people really liked about the course. But yeah, I would say taking it back to 3 weeks. I think there's so much more you can learn in that period of time.
I second that.
I know you guys mentioned a course, Adam. Can y'all be a little more specific? What is that course all about?
Oh, Adam. Okay, so that's I'm not sure of the acronym right now, but it's advanced trauma course. It's not really directed towards the surgical techs per se. They just found it beneficial for the surgical tech to go over there, and it's a lot of the attendings, your trauma surgeons that are still in training. They go there, they operate on the live patient models, and we scrub for them. So granted, it's not the training directed to us, but you get to see a lot of great anatomy. You get to hear them being taught, what to do in certain situations, and you gain that knowledge yourself to go forward. Like I said, that's a course that I wish we could have stayed in. Unfortunately, with going down to 2 weeks, we had to cut it. But if we go down to 3 or get back to 3, maybe we can add it back in. But like I said, it was a really good course for our students.
Yeah, so the acronym is Advanced Trauma Operative Management Course.
Yes.
Operative. So it's something that's been discussed and just kind of share with you guys. I'm part of the GST pilot unit working team, and that's something that has been brought up of utilizing some sort of platform that the surgeons go to so that the GST surgical tech can kind of understand maybe techniques that the surgeon has or has exposes them to different interventions so that not only is the surgeon brushing up on their skills, but also get to establish that that working relationship and understanding how that surgeon performs, as well as anesthesia and anybody else that goes through the course. So that's definitely something to consider in the future, to include that as a potential rotation. And that's something that I'm sure I'll be working with you, Sergeant Coventry, once I get settled to Falls Church. I'll do a site visit, and I think our goal is to, I think I'm also have a TDY to go to Right Pat, and I'll discuss that with USEF Sam to see if there's, we can almost potentially make it a requirement for our surgical techs to do that same rotation through that course. And that's the reason I kind of brought it up, because it's been discussed. It just hasn't been really pushed to say, hey, let's make it mandatory or highly encouraged type situation. So thanks for sharing that.
Did you guys have any more questions?
Sergeant Kaloides, no questions for you?
Sorry, I was muted. I couldn't get it undone. No, I don't have any specific questions, but I know that in our chat you mentioned about for GST, you have to be a staff sergeant and a 7 level. So I just want to throw that out there just for people that might be looking into that, or if they want to get on a GST. And that's kind of all I have. If other people have questions and stuff, they can post it in the comments of the chat. I'll make sure to tag both of you guys.
Let me add something and piggyback on what you mentioned regarding the GST. And just to keep you guys in the loop, Sergeant Coventry, Sergeant Riff, the possibility of allowing shreds to be part of that manpower for GST. I'm sure you guys have seen some shreds, primarily I think orthopedics. But just know in the future that those shreds would be considered a potential substitute. So I think for that, it's important that you as the cadre understand what their experience and their exposure to wherever base. That's why it's important that all 4-in-1s, whether shreds or slicks, are meeting those TMRP requirements, because I'm sure you guys might have gotten, a tech sergeant or master sergeant who hadn't scrubbed in a while, and definitely don't want to use CSTARS or SMART as bridging the gap. I mean, we do it, but I would just hate to do it if they've never had even met those requirements at their current duty station. So that's why it's important that those members are completing those CMRPs and making sure that they're staying up to those requirements, so that when they do arrive, they're not starting, scrubbing for the first time that particular year. So just understand that that's something that's coming down the pipes regarding the shreds being a substitute. Because right now what happens is that they actually have to get a waiver from ACC headquarters in order for them to deploy and to be tasked in place of the SLIC. So I know we almost did it while I was at Keiser. And I think here at Nellis, prior to my arrival, we actually had 2 orthopedic technicians deploy in their place. So I just want to kind of keep that in the back of your mind when you do get some of those students and you hear that they're shreds, and making sure that they have those skills.
Yes, sir.
Other than that, guys, thank y'all so much for sharing your experience, your wisdom with us regarding not only CSTARS, but also GST. This is, again, another opportunity for members that are interested in being CSTAR instructors, cadre, or even GST. So thank you for sharing your experiences, and just hopefully this will allow them to just understand what that's all about, and information to the field will definitely benefit, because I've repeated myself multiple times, but man, I wish I had this kind of exposure in understanding what we do outside of our little bubble, right? Working in an operating room or being assigned to sterile processing department, where we can do things outside and kind of separates us from, our peers, but also gives us a little bit of a break from doing the day in, day out of working in an operating room. So thank you guys. Thank you, Sergeant Kaloides, for setting this up. And I think we might have one more. I think I'm the last to kind of give some professional development for our 4-in-1s from my perspective as the new career field manager. So stay tuned. That should be scheduled hopefully before our PCS to Falls Church next month. So I'll be looking out for that.
All right, thank you, everybody. Like Sergeant Nahar said, his session is the last one. Don't have a time and a date yet set up, but whenever we get that figured out, I will definitely let y'all know, and be looking for that video, and we will see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.